You are listening to the Maple Footy Podcast, the unofficial football podcast of the North. I'm your host, Sam Little. Find me on socials at SamLittle44 and the podcast at Maple Footy Pod. And now there's nothing left to say except for sit back, enjoy, and welcome to the show.
Hello, yes, and welcome back to the Maple Footy Podcast. We are the unofficial football podcast of the North, and as you can see, I'm wearing my Canadian men's national team finest because today, of course, we will be talking about Camp Poutine, where our Canadian men's national team did take on Guatemala. But before we get into that, we do have some things to discuss. Of course, because this isn't a regular international window, it still means that club football is going on, which means some of our Canadian boys were, in fact, making noise. But firstly, earlier this week, it was announced that one of Canada's go-home games before the World Cup would be against Uzbekistan in Commonwealth Stadium over in Edmonton. So that's really cool. Edmonton gets to be a part of the World Cup prep, the World Cup journey. I think that's great. The last time the Canadian men's national team were there was during that iconic Azteca game where we beat Mexico 2-1. Yeah, it was 2-1. And Sam Adekubi jumped into the snowbank. Iconic. So hopefully more of that come June. Of course, in June, hopefully there won't be snow. If there is, then we have a serious problem. But regardless, hopefully there is more of those good, fun vibes to come for that. But moving into some of our players and what they did in Serie A, Jonathan David scored in a 5-0 win just last week. And then yesterday, as a recording yesterday, they lost to Cagliari. So putting a chink in the armor of Juventus's top four Champions League hopes. But still about half the season to go. Jonathan David's heating up. I think Yildiz has looked really good for Juve as well. So still some players doing very well. Of course, Vlahovic will be coming back at some point, who is enjoying quite the good season, but hopefully he doesn't come back at the detriment of Jonathan David. Elsewhere in the Serie A, Ishmael Kone did not play over the weekend. As per Matthew Shinetti, he has a bruised tibia. Not ideal. Apparently he's being sent for an MRI, so hopefully nothing serious and nothing to be worried about, especially, as I said last episode, coming into a World Cup year, you don't want injuries, and especially for Kone as well. He's been enjoying such a fun spell with Sassuolo. It would be a real shame to see him cut down with an injury right now. I would absolutely hate it, but time will tell. We'll see. We'll keep our fingers crossed here at Maple Footy. Alphonso Davies over in the Bundesliga got a good few minutes, about 10 minutes for Bayern Munich in a 5-0 win over Leipzig, which is good for them because it extended their unbeaten run to 27. 27 games unbeaten. That's absurd. It ties their record for longest undefeated run, so that's pretty cool. Davies, of course, has been struggling. Well, not sure, coming back from the ACL injury. So hopefully, as I just said, hopefully he can stay healthy and stay fit and get minutes, especially in a World Cup year. Our best player, our captain, our boy. Hopefully, he'll be all good for come World Cup season. In England, Ali Ahmed made his debut for Norwich in a 2-1 win over the evil Wrexham. Get in Ali Ahmed, because he got himself an assist as well on his debut. Great Ali Ahmed play, really. It's exactly what you've come to know and love from Ali Ahmed. Picks up the ball in a dangerous spot, takes on a man, puts in a perfect ball, and Norwich scores. 2-1 was the final score, and they are now 4 points away from safety. So hopefully with Ali Ahmed and some other recruitments in January, Norwich can climb up the table and, secure safety going into next season. So hopefully, but Ali Ahmed looked very good, played about 65 minutes. So not too bad for your debut, especially new league, new team, new everything. Real good for Ali Ahmed. Very happy for him. Big fan of him. Elsewhere in the championship, the Liam Millar Hive the Liam Millar Hive was in fact buzzing, not only because Liam Millar's Hull did beat Southampton 2-1 over the weekend and are now back in a playoff position for promotion. That's huge. But earlier this week as well, it was announced that Hull City will be playing Chelsea in the next round of the FA Cup. This is a cool game for myself because, of course, if you listen to the podcast, you know I'm a Chelsea fan. I have Chelsea jerseys just off screen over there. But of course, Liam Millar, this will be a huge opportunity for him, I think, to really shine against some of the big boys. As you know, Maple Footy, home of the Liam Millar Hive. So we will be hoping that he has a great game. I know, probably sacrilege to say that. And in all fairness, he will probably be the best winger on the pitch. As someone that has watched a lot of Chelsea this year, I can assure you any combination of our wingers, Liam Millar will probably be the best winger on the pitch if he does play. So hopefully Liam Millar does play, gets a chance to shine. The Hive will be buzzing. Of course, we always are when it comes to Liam Millar. Absolutely love him. He's a great player. And yeah, as I said, could be a very good opportunity for him to shine against the big boys. We've seen him do it at international level. I harken back to that game against France. I thought he was pretty good in the Copa America as well. Looked good in his return cap against Australia. So against bigger teams, he does tend to really ball out. So I'm excited to see what he can do. Just hopefully Chelsea still kind of maybe wins. But of course, as long as Liam Millar has a good game, the Hive will be buzzing. Elsewhere in England, Owen Goodman has made a loan transfer to Barnsley in League One, so the third tier of English football. Not a bad move as well, especially because he immediately made his debut for them over the weekend, where they did secure a 2-1 win, and Owen Goodman made 4 stops. So in my opinion, I do think Owen Goodman is one of the futures of the goalkeeping in the Canadian men's national team program. So as long as we can continue to nurture him, get that boy cap tied as well, please. I think that we could have a very big future for Owen Goodman here in the red of Canada, you know? But yeah, really happy for him. And one final performance-related one, Promise David scored 2 goals over this week, 1 in the league and 1 in the Belgian Cup, where he knocked out Luc de Fougerol's Dender in the Belgian Cup. So shame for Luc de Fougerol, but good for Promise David. So we take positives and negatives, I suppose. But yeah, Promise David enjoying himself. Another great season, and in my opinion, should be in many conversation to start at the World Cup, although time will tell, and I'm not fully sure he will, given that Jesse Marsch hasn't really given him the keys just yet. But maybe that will change from now to June. There is still about 5 or 6 months until the World Cup, so hopefully, for Promise David's sake, we do get to see him continue to put in the goals for fun. Some transfer news for you. Sorry, as I'm like swiping on my screen here. Some transfer news for you. Just shows how prepared I am with all my notes. Tom Field in the CPL has left Cavalry and will be going to Vancouver FC. I think this is a big pickup for Vancouver. Tom Field, of course, is a pretty versatile player, can play at the back as a center back and then also a little bit up in the midfield. I think that is very good for Vancouver FC, a team that would like to be building towards some silverware now, as they got almost a taste of it in the form of the Voyageurs Cup and the Can Champ last year, and now they will be playing in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. I think that this could be a very big season for Vancouver FC. So all the power to them. I hope they do well. And what helps them, I think, going into next season is the fact that they did make Martin Nash officially their head coach. He was the interim caretaker head coach, whatever you would like to call him, during the last half of the season. And I thought Vancouver was playing some of the best football that they've played, period, in their short history. So now to bring him on as a permanent guy, I think that's a huge get. I think that's very, very big. That's a very good decision from the board of Vancouver to make, to bring him in. I think he can continue to build with that team and continue to do very well. So if I'm a Vancouver FC fan, I'd be very excited for this one. Another transfer, this one going the way out of the CPL. Sean Hundle will be playing for Brooklyn FC in the USL. Sean Hundle was always a player I did like. He did well at Valor. Then he went to not York. Well, it was York at the time. He went to York at the time, into Toronto FC towards the end of last season. Did very well for them there. Did well in the playoffs for them as well. Scored 2 goals in the playoffs. I was pretty shocked that they didn't extend him, but of course maybe Brooklyn was already knocking on the door for Sean Hundle and he wants to go try that, so all the power to him. I hope he does very well. Brooklyn is of course a pretty cool place to play if you ask me, so hopefully he does very well in the USL. Another CPL transfer here, as Haiti international goalkeeper Innocent will be playing for Atletico Ottawa next year. He is a former PSG goalkeeper, so that is a pretty cool get if you ask me. And the final transfer of this podcast, Emma Regan, AFC Toronto's captain, Iron Woman, has left the club. She will be going to the USL with expansion team Denver. I hope that she does very well. I'm a big fan of Emma Regan. I think she has all the tools. I think she has great potential. And you saw it last year with AFC Toronto. So I think this is a really good move for her. I think it's a huge loss for AFC Toronto, of course. But for her, I think it's a very good move. I think it's exciting. Going to help her get, maybe even more chances and looks for the international side on the women's. So really happy for her. But I think for AFC Toronto, this is a huge blow for them. But now, moving on to Camp Poutine, the main talking point of this entire episode, this podcast, why we're wearing our Canadian men's national team best, of course. So, yeah, of course, Canada did beat Guatemala 1-0. As some people said it was revenge for the Gold Cup. I'm not super sure about that. But regardless, at least Canada did get a win here. And there are some pros, some cons. We'll do the player-by-player breakdown as we always do, but I will preface everything by saying this was considered a B-tier friendly, which means caps don't technically officially count, which is dumb. But also, if I was any of these guys, especially one of the 12 men that made their debut here, I would tell everybody for the rest of my life, I played for Canada and the cap counted, so I will be talking about it and saying that this was their first game, their first cap, because to me it is. I know it won't technically officially count, but when I'm talking about someone making their debut, I'll say their first cap. I know technically wrong, but they still made an appearance for Canada. They still played for Canada. It should count as a cap. Obviously, FIFA aren't going to change the rule because, the Maple Footy host said that they should count Shola Jimo's first cap, but we'll still talk about it like it's a cap. But anyways, as I always do, we'll go pros, cons, and then go into player by player, and then inevitably go off on some side tangents as well, as we always do on Maple Footy. So some pros, of course, the big pro being 12 debuts for Canada. That's huge. I think it's great as well that Jesse Marsh made a point to play every player, barring Joel Waterman, who didn't dress for the game because apparently he's been struggling with a little bit of a minor injury throughout the training camp, but it's nothing to be concerned about. And the national team thought it would be best if they kind of just chilled with Joel Waterman and kind of let him get healthy and fit before the season with Chicago Fire, especially since MLS is starting in just over a month, which is crazy, by the way. But yeah, MLS is starting in just over a month, so want him to be fit, especially, again, ahead of a big season, World Cup year. You don't want to be contributing to his injury struggles and injury woes. So I do like that. And also, of course, 12 debuts. That's huge. The CPL guys got in, MLS guys got in, really happy for that. Another pro, Kamal Millar, baby, captain. Of course, he wasn't captain the whole game, but once Richie Laryea went off, Kamal Millar took the armband. And as you well know, Kamal Millar, that's my center back right there. That's my number 4. I love Kamal Millar. And so really just happy to see him get the chance as well. I thought he had a good game too, but we'll talk about that a little bit more as we get into the player by player. But yeah, I was really happy to see him don the armband. I've always seen him as one of the leaders for Canada, especially in a camp like this. A lot of young guys, you would expect a veteran presence like Kamal Millar to step up over the last 10 days and really help. Say a guy like a Noah Abatne, who's a young center back. You would expect Kamal Millar to kind of take him under his wing a little bit. So I like that he got the armband, especially being a Kamal fan. But yeah, really enjoyed that. And just another pro, a win. I know it's a friendly, so it doesn't count, for whatever. But still, a win is a win, and I'm glad that the boys got the win. It wasn't the prettiest win by any stretch of the imagination. We'll kind of talk about that in just a few moments when we get into the cons. But regardless, a win is a win, and at least they won, So a win's a win. But now we will move into the cons a little bit, and as I kind of said, it wasn't the prettiest win. I thought we looked a little bit disjointed, and I know it's probably very nitpicky since, there was 12 debuts. A lot of these guys haven't played together, so I won't harp on this for too long. But my main gripe with us looking disjointed was this looked like everybody was trying to impress Jesse Marsch for especially that first half. Everyone was trying to impress Jesse Marsch to try and get a spot in the World Cup as if the squad is going up today, So in that aspect, they looked disjointed, looked like a group of players that weren't really playing together. I thought as the game went on, they started to gel together a bit more, which was good. And they kind of stopped playing so much for themselves in a sense, which also I think is a positive. But yeah, we'll kind of leave it at that for the disjointed bit, just because once again, I feel like that's a little bit nitpicky, especially 12 debuts. A lot of these guys haven't played together. We'll kind of leave it at that. But yeah, it wasn't the prettiest of wins. Something that did bother me though, that has bothered me for a little bit. Actually, the rest of my cons are things that I have talked about before. So it's good to know that even if we change the squad a little bit, these issues are still there. Number one being discipline. Another one I don't want to harp on too long, because there was no sending off. There was no, huge, insane, terrible tackles or nothing like that, or no one punched someone, It really irritated me watching Richie Laryea just during the first, was it the first half or the second? It was the first half. When the ball goes out for a Canada goal kick, Guatemala player does nothing wrong, and Laryea decides to just nudge him twice. And I love Richie, and I love some of his antics. I think it's great a lot of the time, but I do think that there is a time and a place for them, and I just don't like seeing that. And then the entire team getting into a scrap. I understand, back your boy. I love it once again, but also once again, time and a place. I don't think that's needed in a B tier friendly. I just don't, in my humble opinion. As I said, I love Richie. I always love that he plays with such passion, hard on his sleeve, is a kind of guy that will, try to get into a little bit of a scrap here and there, get the opponents kind of riled up. It's his game, and I get it, but is it really necessary on a goal kick that you've got for Canada and the Guatemala player didn't do nothing? I don't know. I don't love it. And then the entire team getting involved, to me, it just reeks of bad discipline. And we've seen bad discipline plague the program really in Marsch's time. Of course, Jesse Marsch himself has been sent off. Ali Ahmed's been sent off. Ishmael Kone, Jacob Schaffelberg. A lot of guys do things that they shouldn't do. And I just worry that this could happen in a big game and cost us. Whether it's Richie Laryea, Alphonso Davies, Ali Ahmed, Jonathan, whoever, and say we make it to the knockout stage of the World Cup and someone does just something, what are you doing kind of thing, and they get sent off, and then we're down a man against France. We don't want that. We don't want that. So I will just say I do like the passion. I like the scrapping at points. But in a B tier friendly, do we need to do it? I don't think so, in my opinion. But maybe you feel differently. Let me know. we can get a conversation going. Another one that has plagued us for a little bit now was lack of creativity and lack of killer instinct in the final third. I thought, Jaden Nelson, Shola Jima, when they had the ball at their feet, they looked really good. And Malik Henry, when he had the ball at his feet, when he came on, he looked good. Jason Russell-Rowe in particular was getting himself into good positions. But that lack of killer instinct when it comes in around that 18-yard box has been an issue, whether it's one of the young guns like a Shola Jima or one of the top players like a Tajon Buchanan. It doesn't matter who it is. It seems like we get to the box and we almost hesitate. Should we pass? Should we shoot? What should I do? Should I dribble? But with Shola Jima, I cut him a huge slack. He is 17 years old. So with him, you expect that he's going to grow, and especially with time and nurturing. So with Shola Jima, I cut him so much slack. 17 years old, absolutely insane. But a guy like Jaden Nelson, who was looking very good on the ball, looked really deadly at times, weaving through defenders with ease at points, then almost gets to the point where it's like, okay, do I pass, do I shoot? And then he kind of just puts in a not great ball or gets dispossessed. Or it's something that's really plagued the program for time now. And another thing that is missing our chances. There was a couple chances that I think maybe we could have done better with. The Ryan El-Mooney chance in the second half when Richard Larea put the ball on a platter. He wasn't sharp enough for it, and then it kind of takes a bad first touch, and then keeper grabs it. Once again, it was his first cap, so I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, you got to do better, for everything. But there are moments in a game where it's like, you got to put that away. You just have to. So where I do feel like I might be nitpicking a little bit, it's just the problems that I keep on seeing, that I keep on regurgitating. It feels like every time I do a recap of one of our international games, missed chances, creativity, lack of killer instinct, discipline, and the last one here, set pieces. I thought Chouanier was whipping in some good set pieces, but we never capitalize on them, which another thing that has been an issue. And now we have to be in the mindset of in the World Cup, and I know majority of these guys probably won't be going to the World Cup. I get that, but still, this is issues that have plagued us, and we need to be in the mindset of, okay, the World Cup is right around the corner. What are we doing to improve our issues from top to bottom, from, our number one guy on the sheet to our last substitute that may not even get a sniff? What are we doing to make sure that everybody is doing these things properly? And set pieces are a thing that we are going to need to capitalize on in this World Cup, I feel like. So we need to actually capitalize on them when we get those chances. When Chouanier is putting in a good ball, you need to capitalize on that. That's just my opinion. But we'll kind of leave all that now, let you sit on it a little bit, and we'll move into the player-by-player breakdown, and then we'll call it a day. So starting out with the defense and our goalkeeper, we'll start out with James Pantemis. Finally making his Canada debut after years of call-ups. I know, Sam, it doesn't count for a cap. I don't care. He made his Canada debut, okay? And it does feel a bit long overdue. He has been a very good goalkeeper in the MLS for the last number of seasons. Of course, goalkeeping right now feels pretty nailed down to Crépeau and St. Clair at the international level, but a player of Pantemis' quality does deserve to at least get a look and get a sniff. Didn't really have much to do on the day, in all fairness. Made really, in my opinion, one save. I know that he's probably, let's see his stats. I know he's probably logged for, he was logged for 3 saves. There's really just that one play off of a corner kick where James Pantemis kind of hesitated a little bit and then ended up making a very nice save. So outside of that, didn't really have a whole ton to do. As I said, looked that shaky bit for literally same passion play, looked a little bit shaky, but then ended up still making the save. So I'm happy that he got in, He's been called up so many times and has never gotten the sniff, so I'm happy that he did get in here. He is a quality goalkeeper, let's be real here. Just problem is, I do think that St. Clair and Crépeau are both well ahead of him in the pecking order, but we could still see him as Canada's number 3 at this World Cup. Once again, time will tell, and what Jesse Marsch decides to do. We do still have a good few goalkeepers that could have that number 3 spot, really. So, but yeah, I thought Pantemis, not a whole ton to do on the day, but glad that he finally did make his Canada debut. Moving into the defense, we'll start off with our right back on the night, Richie Laryea, also the captain on the night. I thought he did look good. I know I was a bit critical of his scrap that he kind of got into, but outside of that, I do think he looked pretty positive. Not a whole ton to do defensively, if we're being real. And going forward, we didn't go forward through the right a whole ton, but when we did, Richie Laryea did look pretty good, leading the charge, especially helping out Sholojimo a lot, offering him overlaps and inverting, as the new term is, to kind of come more inside, always offering an option for whether it was a Sholojimo or one of the midfielders. He was always an option, which is very good and what you want from your right back. He did put in a great ball, as I kind of discussed just moments ago. He put in a great ball, which probably should have been an assist, but still, it just showed that when Richie Laryea was being able to get forward and do something, he looked good. Just probably didn't get forward a whole ton just because a lot of our play for a majority of the game was going down our left-hand side, and Richie Laryea was predominantly a right back on the night. But speaking of the left-hand side, let's talk about Zorhan Bassong. Of course, Maple Footy is a lot of homes. Maple Footy is also the home of the Zorhan Bassong fan club. I have so many things going on. But I was really happy to see him get the chance here. He does feel like one of the guys that's on the bubble right now to try and get into the squad. Especially with injuries, it could end up being that Zorhan Bassong does get in. He is, of course, a versatile player as well, too. Could play in a plethora of positions, so that may work in his favor leading up to the World Cup. And on the day, I thought he looked pretty decent. Looked a little bit rusty, as a couple of these guys did. You know, a lot of them are MLS and CPL players, so they haven't played since October, November, depending on when their seasons ended with playoffs and whatnot. But I do think he looked pretty good. As I said, a little bit rusty, but he was offering a lot of overlaps for Jaden Nelson. That's something I thought they did well. I thought that the two of them linked up quite well together. Bassong was getting forward a lot, got himself into some really good positions. His final ball, I do think, as much as it kills me being the head of the Zorhan Bassong fan club, his final ball, I do think, let him down a little bit, but I do chalk that a bit up to being a little bit rusty, just because hasn't played in quite some time. I think if you get a mid-season Bassong, I do think that some of those balls are a little bit more, you know, maybe on a Canadian player's foot or head, what have you. But yeah, defensively, I also thought he looked pretty sound too. Kind of like Laryea. Didn't have a whole ton to do defensively, but him and Kamal Millar also, I thought, really complemented each other quite well. If there was times where Kamal would push up and then Bassong would kind of stay back, drop back. I like that. I like seeing that. And that's just, you know, that's just the fundamental basics of the game, right? If one of your center backs pushes up a little bit, you expect your fullback to push back a little bit, cover him, because just in case you get caught on the counter, who's there? The fullback filling in as a makeshift center back. Ideally wins you back possession, what have you. But yeah, I did like how Bassong was operating in this game. So I think we could be seeing Bassong on that plane. Let's be real here. But yeah, feeling like he's on the bubble right now, but I could still see him making that step and making that push for the actual squad come June. Speaking of Kamal Millar, my center back, my number 4, he did look shaky for about the first 5 to 10 minutes of the game. There was a couple plays he made where I was like, oh no, Kamal. Come on, man. This is a big night for us here, Kamal. But I think as the game went on, he got more comfortable. Him and Priso, I thought, looked really good together too. They complement each other really, really well. I think they both had great distribution on the day as well for the most part. But yeah, it looked rusty at times as well. We won't touch upon that too much. But yeah, outside the first 10 minutes, I thought Kamal looked really good. Shut down a lot of Guatemala plays. It felt like made a good few tackles, made, you know, just some interceptions, some key clearances. I really like Kamal Millar, so I may be coming off as very biased, and I want him on that plane come June, so really hoping he is. But yeah, I thought this was a good showing for Kamal outside of the first 5 to 10 minutes, and then after that, I thought he looked sound. His partner, though, of the guys that feel like they may not be in the World Cup plans, because for me, there's the bubble of guys like your Kamal Millers, your Bass Songs, your Jaden Nelsons, who are on the bubble a little bit. And then there's the guys that's like, I don't know if they're even on the bubble. I put Ralph Parisot in the I don't even know category. I'm putting Ralph Parisot fully into the bubble now because I thought Ralph Parisot was the man of the match 100%. And he was the most impressive, I thought, of not just debuts, but just players on the field in general. I thought Parisot looked great. He was sound defensively, really good going forward, which is what you'd expect. He's a midfielder playing center back. So on the ball, he looks very comfortable, very composed. I was just so happy that he got this call, got this chance. I've been harping on that Ralph Parisot deserves a national team call-up for months now, so I was really happy he got that call, got this chance, makes his debut for Canada. I thought he looked very, very good at the back, and Khalid Kamal really well. I think he's given Jesse Marsch something to think about, especially if he can start the MLS season how he ended last MLS season. I think we're seeing a player really mature in front of our eyes. I think he has a genuine shot of going to the World Cup, which felt like it may not have been the case just a couple months ago. So really happy for Ralph Parisot. I think he's given Jesse Marsch something serious to think of here. Moving into the midfield, we'll start out with the new Austin man, Jaden Nelson. I think Gareth Wheeler probably put it best when he said, you got all of Jaden Nelson in this game, because you see the player, you see the potential, and I'm a big Jaden Nelson fan. Like, I really like him. I think he's got loads of potential, but it's a matter of putting it all together. We saw him taking on his man and having guys on toast. We saw him getting into the box, getting the ball, looking super comfortable, and then gets to the box, and I don't want to say it falls apart, but almost like he questions, okay, should I shoot? What should I do? And I think if he puts that together, we've got ourselves a very good winger. I think, as I say, he's one of those guys that's on the bubble right now, and I think if he can have a strong start to the season with Austin, I do expect to see him on the plane for the 2026 World Cup. But yeah, we saw all of Jaden Nelson on the night, looked very good at points, and then looked very not bad at all, but looked very unsure, I think is the best way to put it. Looked almost unsure of playing a pass, of taking a shot, of doing whatever, which I do think he does need to get out of his game, especially now. He's starting to get, not old, I mean, he's still only 23, but he's been around the game for a little bit now. We need to see him start to put that together, in my opinion, because then I do think we have a serious winger on our hands. Moving over to someone who also has loads of potential, just 17 years old, making his first appearance for the Canadian men's national team, Inter Toronto's Shola Jimo. I'm a big fan of this player. I think, as many Canadians probably have followed him from his debut with York at the time, saw him in the playoffs in 2024 do what he did there, and then even in this playoff came off the bench against Halifax, makes a huge impact. I think this kid's got loads of potential, man. So really happy to see him get this opportunity. I do think he looked nervous at points, which is to be expected. 17 years old, playing with, guys like Jonathan Osorio, Kamal Millar, Richie Larea, guys have been around the program for quite some time. But I think as the game went on, he did start to look a lot more comfortable. We started to see Shola Jimo being able to do kind of things that we expect him to do. Looked pretty good on the ball as the game went on. Linked up well with Richie Larea too. Was able to cut inside at times and whipped in a couple nice crosses as well. So I think if we keep nurturing him and give him time to develop, don't rush him into things, I do think that we have a serious player with Shola Jimo. I think that this is the first cap. I know, did you say it was not a cap? Whatever. It's the first cap of many, in my opinion, if we play our cards right with him. So yeah, really excited to see what he can do in the future. I think he's got loads of potential, man. He could go, I think, straight to the top if that's what he wants, if that's how we nurture him, if that's how, Inter Toronto helps him along that path, and then wherever that takes him. I seriously think that he's got all the tools to go just do really so much for the national team and for his own personal career. He's got loads of potential. Really happy to see him in this game. In the center of the park, we had Jonathan Osorio. Really happy once again to see him play because right now it feels like he's on the bubble, which I think sucks. I know people are going to be up in arms when I say this. Jonathan Osorio needs to be on the plane. He needs to. He is, of course, he's past his prime. I won't argue that. But he can still offer our team so much. And we saw it even in this game, operating in those tight pockets of space that you expect Osorio to really pick up. Always an outlet for a teammate to pass the ball. And then you add in his leadership aspect to everything too. I just think we need him on the plane for 2026. I'm a huge Osorio fan. So I really hope that we do continue to see him with the national team throughout 26 and especially in the World Cup. I thought he looked good on the night. As I said, picked up those pockets of space. Wasn't his best game, looked a little bit rusty as well as a lot of these guys did. But yeah, overall, I thought he looked pretty decent. And I think if he goes to that March window, we could maybe see a more informed Jonathan Osorio. His partner on the day was Schwanier. Another guy looked a tad rusty, but still put in a good performance. I thought one of the better players on the pitch for either side. His set pieces looked good. I've always been a fan of Schwanier on set pieces. I do think that he's one of our better set piece takers, so I do think we need to just let him do that. And hopefully we'll start capitalizing on them. He really was all over the pitch too, helping out in defensively, helping out in the attack. And as I said, over most of the set pieces on the day. So really happy for Schwanier. I thought he looked good as well. And I think he, as long as he's healthy, will be going to the 2026 World Cup. So knock on wood for that. We don't want to see anybody injured before the World Cup, but of course, name of the game. Hopefully no one is. We'll leave it at that. But yeah, Schwanier I thought looked pretty good on the night. So moving up the field to our attackers. We'll start out with Ryan El Mooney. I don't have a whole ton to say on him. He didn't feel super involved in the matchup, which I think is a shame because he is a player that definitely has a high ceiling and a high potential, and he is one of those guys that could declare for a couple different nations. So hopefully he does end up declaring for Canada, and he has a great future with us. But I just found on the day he wasn't super involved, and not truly, not all on him. Just players just weren't really finding him. He did make a couple very good runs and was occupying some nice spots on the field, but was never really found consistently. The one time where he was found, I do think he probably should have put the chance away, but outside of that, he just wasn't super involved, which I think is a shame because he is a player that I would like to see what he can do in this setting. But I do think he has a big season ahead with the Whitecaps, and I don't think this will be the last time we see him called up. But his partner on the day, Russell Rowe, another one of those guys that I think maybe has given Jesse Marsh something to think about. The only problem with Russell Rowe is that he plays striker, and right now with the strikers you have guys like Jonathan David, Promise David, Tani Oluwaseyi, Kyle Larin, Theo Barrett, Daniel Jebison. That's 6 guys right there. Then you add in a Russell Rowe. We're not bringing 7 strikers to a World Cup. I like Russell Rowe. I think he is a good player, and he can kind of occupy some really nice spots. They were comparing him a lot to how Jonathan David played for Canada against Guatemala for Russell Rowe. And you can see it. He was occupying some really good spots, dropping back a couple of times, getting into very advanced positions, of course, grabs a great goal, a great ball in from Malik Henry, a great run from Russell Rowe, a glancing header in. Great, like genuinely a greatly worked goal. But that's really my concern with Russell Rowe. It's nothing to do with him or his quality. I just think that there's just too many guys at this moment in time that may be ahead of him for the World Cup squad. But if this performance is anything to judge him on, I do still think that he could maybe get his way into the squad if he continues to play well at club level. He had his best ever season with Columbus Crew just this season past, and now, of course, will be hoping to replicate that and then some ahead of the World Cup, and maybe, just maybe, give Jesse Marsh something to think about, because I think this game will have also helped him maybe make Jesse Marsh go, okay, we'll watch him a little bit closer. We will quickly talk about the substitutes as well, because a couple of them got to make their debuts. Well, I think actually every single substitute we brought on made their debut for the national team. So in the 64th minute, Thiago Coimbra came in for Almuni. I thought Coimbra, by the way, not bad to make your debut on your birthday. It was his birthday yesterday. I saw on Instagram, on the Canadian men's national team Instagram. So that's pretty cool that he got to make his debut for his country on his birthday. Really, really cool. He is currently with the Halifax Wanderers. Rumor has it, apparently MLS clubs are sniffing around at the moment. So we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, I thought he came in. Another guy that looked a little bit rusty, and he looked a little bit slow at the start of his appearance. But I think as the game went on, he got more comfortable. He looked a bit quicker as well. Put in a couple of actually very nice balls too. So where he kind of started out slow, I thought he really grew into the game. And if he does get that MLS move, I'll be very curious to see, one, who it is to, and two, how he can fare in the MLS. I think that there is loads of potential with him. The young player of the year in the CPL last season. So yeah, a lot of potential there. And I thought he looked pretty good as the game went on too. I think he got better and better. At the same time, Badwell came in for Osorio. I was actually very impressed by Badwell. Another one of those Whitecap boys, another young Whitecap boy. But yeah, he looked very good. Cleaned up a lot in the midfield too. When Canada started to look a little bit tired throughout, Guatemala started to maybe feel like they might get a second wind. Badwell, I think, really helped sure things up in the center of the park. Looked good alongside Chouanier too. So he could be someone that we could see maybe more of in the future, especially if his Whitecaps career and play time kind of pans out how I think it probably should, which is well. At the same time, Malik Henry of Toronto FC of Hamilton, Ontario, baby. Hamilton represent. Malik Henry came in. I thought he looked... Honestly, for me, it was Ralph Priso, Russell Rowe, Malik Henry were our three best performers on the night. I thought Malik Henry looked great off the bench. Anytime he had the ball, felt like he could do something, was playing very direct. His crosses were insane and just not afraid to take on his man. Exactly what you want from your winger off a bench in the 65th minute. You really want them to come in and change the game. And within 2 minutes, he grabbed himself an assist as well. Beautiful ball for Russell Rowe. I don't think commentary hyped up that cross in enough. Not to take anything away from Russell Rowe, because his run in was great, header was great, but that ball was exceptional by Malik Henry. So potentially could be on the verge of a breakout season with TFC. I would like to see a little bit more from that club and country level. So go on, Malik. Another debut in the 70th minute. Noah Abatne came on for Ralph Priso. Another one I was very happy to see. One of those boys in the CPL that really had a great season with Ottawa. Of course, now a North Star Cup champion. Will be interesting to see how this season pans out for him with Atletico Ottawa, or maybe if there will be some interest from elsewhere, because you can see the potential on this guy. Plays the game very calm. He's that kind of center back that... He's got a big frame. He's got good positional awareness, good with the ball at his feet, and I can only see him developing further and just becoming better and better with the right steps in his career. So I think this camp was a huge accomplishment for Noah Abatne, and to get on for the last 20 minutes in this game looked very positive. Really happy with what Abatne was able to do in this one. Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy, another one that came off the bench. I thought... He looked up and down. He looked out of position a couple of times. He got caught on the counter a good few times where it felt like he was out of position. Made a very nice recovery slide tackle, though, so credit where it is due. I do think Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy needs to find consistency. He found it a little bit at Charlotte last season, more than a little bit. He did find it at Charlotte last season. I'll be interested to see what this season looks like for him. I think it could be a very important season for him. If he does stay in Montreal, if he does leave, I think regardless, it's going to be a hugely important season for Marshall-Ruddy, and he will want to, of course, get back into the Canadian national team setup. He's been called up a couple of times, and now, of course, finally getting a taste of donning the maple leaf. In the 81st minute, Gavrin came on, another Hamilton boy, really happy for him. Of course, not a whole ton to do, but still really happy for Gavrin, another guy who's got a big season ahead. But yeah, not a whole ton to say on his performance because he didn't have much to do. Ionora also came on, one of our stars from the U17 World Cup just a few months ago, playing with LAFC2. He was one of the training players, like camp players, during Camp Poutine. So he also did get to come into the bench, got in for the last 10 minutes. Another guy that looked pretty positive, looked very good on the ball the couple of times that he did get in the ball in those 10 minutes. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what he can do. Another player that I think has just loads of potential. It's a very exciting time for some of the young players, Ionara, Sholajimo, Malik Henry, Marshall Ruddy. List goes on and on and on. A lot of young players. I think there's a lot to be excited about for them. He is one of them. And last, but certainly not least, really happy, Mateo De Brienne got in. Well deserved. This is long overdue in my opinion, especially with the injuries that have plagued our back line. It's always shocking to me that De Brienne never really got a sniff towards the tail end of last season, but really happy that he did get in here. Once again, not a whole ton to do in that last 8 minutes, but as I hit my microphone, but he did look very positive in his short cameo, but really happy for him because I do think that this was long overdue. But that just about wraps it up for us. I do hope you enjoyed. It was a men's national team recap heavy podcast, of course, with the little bit of news at the start. I do hope that you enjoyed it. I always love getting to do these. Talking about the men's national team is always my favorite stuff to do. So it's a good thing that this is a World Cup year and there's going to be a lot of opportunity to talk about them. We have a window in March, then we have the June window right before the World Cup, then of course the World Cup itself. Then, you get your September, November, October-November windows, and it's going to be very fun to get to talk about them. I think that we will see a few more debuts throughout this year. I think that there's going to be a lot of players, especially from this camp. I think that there could be a lot of players that end up getting a call at some point this year and making their official debut for the national team and get to officially be capped, even though, in my opinion, they have been capped. But that's a different conversation for a different day. I do hope you enjoyed this one. I have another episode dropping later this week on Friday. It is another interview, not with a player this time, so it's pretty exciting. It's a cool insight into the kind of business side of the CPL in a sense. And it's a really cool episode. I hope you enjoy it. It will be out on Friday. But just rewatch this one until that comes out, or rewatch our other interviews. They're all pretty good. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. This was a long one. So thank you. And until next time, cheers, everyone.
And that was your Maple Footy podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Check my socials for any and all future updates. Remember to support Canadian football, be kind, and until next time, live, laugh, little.